On this week's episode, New England actors and filmmakers rally in Massachusetts, an iconic and long-lost piece of cinema history is going on the auction block, the top 10 movie props of all time, and the online campaign continues to get a new Zorro movie up and running. I'm James, and this is The Hub on Hollywood. All right, welcome back to another episode of The Hub on Hollywood. As always, we appreciate you following us on all the social media platforms at Hub on Hollywood, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We're trying to get on Threads still. I'm not sure if anybody else is having issues. We are, because right now, you may have noticed Jamie is not on this episode, but she will be back next week. Don't you worry. But yeah, my concern about Threads is that right now, Jamie and I, we have our Instagram accounts, and you should follow us if you are not already. But we are able to log into our Hub on Hollywood Instagram accounts mutually. However, even though we have created our own personal Threads accounts, we can't, for some reason, create a Hub on Hollywood account. So if you have any suggestions or ideas for how to get that rolling, how to get that set up, please let us know, because I've been trying to set it up for weeks and to no avail. You know what else is not availing? What is not working still? The negotiations for SAG-AFTRA and the producers for the studios, who are now in 2 months in this strike that is, of course, including SAG-AFTRA, even longer for the Writers Guild of America. But this past Labor Day here in Massachusetts, we saw protests both on the West Coast and on the East Coast. Labor Day, we saw union members here in Boston marching through, local actors, filmmakers, supporters going out there, making their voices heard, demanding that negotiations be fair, that everybody gets a fair deal in this. We even saw Senators Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren showing up in Boston for that Labor Day SAG-AFTRA strike. The next rally is actually going to be taking place also in Massachusetts, this time on the western side of the state, on September 21st. This is 4:30 to 5:30 at Pulaski Park in Northampton, Massachusetts, again in Western Mass. And so if you are free on that day, 4:30 to 5:30, of course, the union would appreciate your support. But, you know, it's always great to see the effort continue. Actors, filmmakers, writers standing in unity and not budging, not saying that we're gonna go back to work without a fair deal. A lot of stuff still going on. Again, this is going to be an ongoing story, but we will get back to it and show you any updates or anything. If you were actually at any of the rallies, the Labor Day one, the previous one in Boston on Boston Common, or if you plan to join the next rally in Northampton, reach out to us. We have already interviewed several New England local actors and filmmakers talking about the effects of the strike, what it's had on their career, what they hope for the future, we just want to highlight and promote people, especially locally here in New England. So reach out to us at Hub on Hollywood on our social medias. You can find us hubonhollywood.com, or also hubonhollywood@gmail.com if you want to shoot us a message. If you don't want to be on the podcast, that's fine too. Just shoot us a message and we'll give you a shout out. Also shouting out on our next episode next week, I'm going to be reviewing the new movie A Million Miles Away. It's going to come out on Amazon Prime on September 15th, but it stars Michael Pena. This is about the story of Jose Fernandez, the first migrant farm worker to travel to space, based on a true story. I'm going to see how accurate this is to the real life story, but this is a tale of perseverance, community, and sacrifice to accomplish an impossible dream. That review will be on the next episode of The Hub on Hollywood. Let's get right to the meat of this episode. I thought this story was fantastic. Anything Star Wars related, I'm on it. And so this one is no different. A long missing key piece of Star Wars history hitting the auction block in Texas next month, and it could be yours for the low price starting at $400,000. If you have that kind of money, and if you are a huge Star Wars fan, the original 20-inch X-Wing starfighter model was apparently found after going missing for decades. That model was used for filming key scenes in the original 1977 Star Wars film, including the climactic battle at the Death Star. It's going to be part of the Heritage Auctions event, including other props and things from an Oscar-nominated model maker. That's taking place on October 14th in Dallas and the 15th in Dallas. But for $400 starting bid, the X-Wing model starfighter can be yours. Incredible. I would love to have that on my shelf, but I'm not in Dallas, Texas. That's my excuse for not buying it. My only excuse for not buying a $400,000 model starfighter. But also, because it's in California, no other reason why I'm not going to be pursuing this purchase. But if you are a fan of horror movies, then you must be a fan of Halloween. John Carpenter's Halloween, starring Jamie Lee Curtis. Well, the home of Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laurie Strode, that is supposed to take place in Haddonfield, Illinois, is actually based in Pasadena, California. It is going for sale for just shy of $1.8 million. So if you are a fan of the 78 horror classic, it's actually my favorite horror movie to date, then this home can be yours. One thing I love about this, many people may or may not realize, but yes, the film Halloween was based in Illinois, where they experienced seasons. However, because it was filmed in California, where it's sunny and 75, like 99% of the time, they needed to make it feel as if it was actually fall. So one of my favorite stories about the behind-the-scenes making of Halloween was that for every outdoor shot that they actually had to have crew members with bags of leaves, just dry old leaves that they would dump out on the street, on the sidewalk, on the lawn, wherever they were, in order to make it look and feel like it was fall, where it was in Illinois, because in California you don't have leaves falling off, especially during October. But yeah, for $1.8 million, the house that Laurie Strode once called home can be yours. Yeah, let me know what your favorite horror movie is. Again, this one is probably my number one horror film. The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, is definitely in my top 3. So are you a fan of Jamie Lee Curtis, the Queen of Scream, as I am? Comment down below. Let us know what your thoughts are. And this got my thoughts a-buzzing, a-rolling. I started thinking about what are the most iconic movie props of all time. And so I went out, did my research, which is basically Googling and clicking on the first most popular link. And that brought me to the Thrillist website, which fortunately ranked everything from 1 to 100 best movie props of all time. But because I am short on time, I will not be going through all the 100. I will go through the top 10, however. And some of these you may expect to be on the top 10 list. Some others may be surprising. Myself was also surprised. But let's start with number 10, that being the leg lamp from A Christmas Story. You may be familiar with that iconic classic scene, Fragile, the horrendous lamp in the shape of a woman's leg with stockings and wearing a high heel shoe. And that comes in at number 10. It was funny, behind the scenes, I guess the directors, they were talking about, they were looking for something that would stand out in this movie, something that, this old man would cherish, but everybody else would just hate and would love to see it go crashing on the floor. So they talked to some of the production designers on set, and they said, they came up with, let's use a human limb, let's use a mannequin leg, and then not only that, but we'll put a single pump on it, add some fishnet stockings, because I guess that's what bad girls would wear back in the day, according to this article, and they would throw a lampshade on top. The real challenge about this, I guess making it was the easy part, but the real challenge was figuring out a way how to make it break on command, because they had to shoot it several times, and they had to make it break every single time they shot it. So It's a classic. It's so recognizable. A lot of people still have it. I've seen it appear on keychains. I've seen it appear as ornaments on Christmas trees. Christmas Story is definitely in the rotation for my family, Casa de Rojas. When the holidays come around, Christmas Story comes up. This is another Christmas movie that my family always, growing up, always put on. But that was definitely in the rotation. Moving on to number 9, most iconic movie props of all time, the Bone Club from 2001: A Space Odyssey. That iconic scene, was recreated most recently in the Barbie film. So good nod to 2001. Number 8, we're sinking low. We're going down low to the Titanic. The Heart of the Ocean. The one where Rose, a much older version of Rose, tosses it into the Atlantic, off not too far away from Massachusetts, actually, from the East Coast. Also, the one that, of course, Rose, a younger version of Rose, wore when Jack, Leonardo DiCaprio, drew her, like one of his French girls. Number 7, the Origami Unicorn from Blade Runner 1982. According to this article, they had, I guess, several dozen of these origami unicorns. They were so fragile that they had to make several because they would just crumple and crinkle and everything. So they had to have a lot of them because they were just made out of chewing gum wrappers. So that's good. I'm kind of surprised that made the top 10. What I'm not surprised made the top 10, close to the top 5, at number 6, Wilson in Castaway. The story goes that in the original script, I guess they talked to some actual survivors who were cast away on their own. And one thing that psychologists said, one thing that they often do was pick an inanimate object and talk to it because they needed something or somebody to talk to in order to go to be and remain sane. And so that's what they did that's the idea for Castaway. And in the script, they hadn't picked an object yet, but they decided that we're going to name it Wilson. Tom Hanks' character is going to be talking to this Wilson thing. And so they eventually came up with the idea of like using a volleyball because that's what they had nearby. And so they went to Wilson, the maker of the volleyball. However, they were not interested in allowing them to use it in the movie. And so basically the director, the movie makers, they had to talk to them like, hey, we have Oscar-winning actor Tom Hanks. We have an Oscar-winning director in this film creating this, like it would be a mistake not to use this. And so they finally budged and they ended up making only 20 volleyballs without the Wilson logo, just so they can put like a bloody handprint and then so Tom Hanks can make a face out of it. But that would be one of the worst cinematic movie blunders if Wilson did not go ahead and allow them to use their volleyball in this iconic film that is quoted in the top movie quotes of all time too. Wilson. It'd be very, very different if it was like a basketball or like a softball or something. All right, this one, number 5, The Maltese Falcon from The Maltese Falcon, 1941 film. Never watched this one, however, I guess it's worthy enough to be number 5. If I was making my own list, I'm not sure if I would include it. But what I would include is coming in at number 4, and that is the hoverboard from Back to the Future 2. I love that during the making of Back to the Future, they created this fake behind-the-scenes scenario where they were like actually trying to convince people like, yeah, this hoverboard exists. We had Michael J. Fox on here practicing so he could perfect riding this for the film. And so if you can find that on YouTube, it's like this fake behind-the-scenes kind of mockumentary about that, showing, no, it's an actual hoverboard thing, and you can have it too after the movie comes out. We should have hoverboards today. Technically, we do have hoverboards, but they have wheels, so it's just a lie. So that is one thing that I definitely think deserves to be in the top 5. This one is going to definitely turn some heads. Number 3, the horse head from The Godfather. I don't know who keeps that prop. I don't know where anybody puts that prop, but somebody put this at number 3. So kudos to that horse head living in infamy. Number 2, Rosebud from Citizen Kane. That sled that was at the heart of this old man's meaningless dying words. Okay, number 1, I wholeheartedly agree that this deserves the number one spot, and it is really fitting to be on this list as we were talking about that long lost missing piece of cinematic history, the X-Wing fighter that's going up for auction. Another Star Wars related prop, the most best popular famous prop of all time, the lightsaber, and specifically Luke's lightsaber, which used to belong to Anakin Skywalker, his father, coming in at number one. Many people know famously that basically every prop is kind of oftentimes reconfigured from a pre-existing item, and in this case, the handle of the lightsaber is actually a part of an old-timey film camera that held the flash apparatus for this. Well, after Star Wars came out, people would go to junk shops, go to antique stores, go to thrift stores and everything in the hopes of finding a camera like this with this piece. And instead of like restoring it, so this is a big a stake in the heart for film lovers, actual like film camera lovers, because they would end up destroying or modifying the piece for this film camera to create their own lightsaber, which led to the eventual the impossibility of recreating the actual film camera with this film piece. And so it's an interesting part of history, but well beloved, I guess. But what do you think about this top 10 list? This is according to Thrillist.com, the greatest movie props of all time. Maybe we could do some quick honorable mentions. Coming in at number 11, the jetpack from Thunderball, James Bond. Number 12, the baby carriage from Battle Shock Potomac? Potemkin? Never saw that movie. 13, the umbrella from Singing in the Rain. 14, the golden ticket from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And number 15, the boombox from Do the Right Thing. Let us know what your number one, your top 10 list of movie props would be. So I think this is pretty much almost a near end of wrapping of this mini episode of the Hub on Hollywood. Again, Jamie will be joining me next week, where I'll be able to banter and bounce off someone a lot easier than with myself. But before I go, this didn't really catch traction last week or the week before, so I'm trying to revive it once again. I've said it a million times, and I'll say it a million and one more. We need a new Zorro movie. Not just me, not just we, but the world. We need a new Zorro movie. It's been too long since Antonio Banderas, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and all those other folks have helped create attention around this character that I think people are sleeping on. We need a revival for Zorro, and I think the best person to take up the mantle, if Antonio were to come back and they make a movie where they move it on to the next generation, I think the best person to fill the mask and the hat and carry that lasso or that whip is none other than Xolo Maridueña. You know him from Cobra Kai. You know him from Parenthood, and you know him most recently from Blue Beetle. Xolo for Zorro. Hashtag Xolo for Zorro. I'm not crazy. I think this is a great idea that we need to get running. So please, when you follow us at Hub on Hollywood on social media, be sure to hashtag Xolo for Zorro and tag Xolo Maridueña, tag Antonio Banderas, tag all the major movie studios. It may take a while for this to actually get any footing because of the ongoing strike, but when that strike ends, we need to get this going. I believe in this. Let's make this happen. So thanks again for following us on the Hub on Hollywood. Thanks for catching us on this episode. We will be back next week with more topics, more fun, hopefully more interviews with some local New England actors and filmmakers. Again, if you are one who has been to a local rally in Massachusetts, in New England, or planning to go to any future ones, reach out to us at Hub on Hollywood, also hubonhollywood at Gmail, and hubonhollywood.com. But that's the show. I'm James. This was the Hub on Hollywood, and we'll catch you next week.